Welcome back. All right, so NHL revenues. Yes. Now, I talked about this in a video not too long ago, but now we have some numbers, thanks to Sean Shapiro's reporting in The Athletic. So we're going to take a look at the numbers as reported by Sean Shapiro in The Athletic. Good article on this. So I grabbed some points from it. We'll discuss this. One thing that stands out to me is that the NHL has always been a gate-driven league. So if fans are deciding en masse not to go out and watch games in Buffalo, that's a problem in Buffalo, but it's something the NHL takes, very seriously as well. But over the last few years, things have changed, and it feels like the NHL is not as gate-driven as it was, which makes sense, right? You want to make sure that you're not going to go through the kind of financial hardship you had over the last couple of years. And I understand that the definition of hardship might be different for us than it is for a multi-billion-dollar corporation, but it's a hardship by their standards. This year, $5.3 billion in revenues. Now, I remember the last time I talked about the revenues, which was about a week ago, that there were fans that said, well, yeah, but that's just because, the games come back and people are, it's going to wear off. That enthusiasm's going to wear off and people are going to stop coming out. It has nothing to do with gate revenue. In fact, in the first two rounds this year, the NHL made about 88% on gate revenues of what they made 3 years ago on gate revenues. So actually, the gate revenues are off a little bit in the playoffs in the first two rounds from where they were 3 years ago. Where the money is increased is everywhere else. So, sponsorships are the big one. Outside of the TV contract. TV contract's huge, of course. And the TV contract helps to attract all the rest of this. So sponsorships have gone from $623 million last season to $1.4 billion this year. Now, last season was a 56-game schedule over a shortened period of time. Makes sense that there'd be a little bit less in sponsorship money when it's a shorter period and it's less overall games. But yeah, $1.4 billion is a ton of money. And again, if the league's going to get away from just being gate-driven, that's a good way to do it. That is a very good way to do it. Now, the new TV deal in the U.S. has increased ratings. It's increased the viewership of the league with casuals, which is what they're saying as well, is that there are more new viewers of the National Hockey League this year than normal. There's a lot of reasons for that. And it's something I'm definitely conscious of with this channel because in terms of sports, when you're learning a sport, I get the feeling that, and again, just from me learning sports growing up, it feels like the NFL was the most likely to explain why things were happening. Because if you're trying to watch a National Football League game and you don't know the rules, it can get kind of confusing kind of quickly. And then once you've got it, it's easy. But for new fans, it can be tough. Hockey isn't really that difficult, but there are some rules that need explaining. There's the fact that certain rules apply in the first period that don't apply in the third. There's a lot of reasons to look at the game as a new viewer and say, this doesn't make sense to me. So I'm conscious of that on here. That's why when I do reviews, I try to explain things as much as I can and do it without talking down to people, which is that fine line. Because if people think you're talking down to them, you're in trouble. So you have to try to ride that line, right? And hockey hasn't always done this well, but I think with ESPN, with TNT, and I think they hired the right people, people that would be known by casual fans. And we can have that debate, too, about did they get the best analysts or just the biggest names? I think they went for a little bit of both. I really do. I think they went with a little bit of both. And so it worked. It absolutely worked. The TV ratings were good. And the streaming numbers online, while we don't know what they were, I haven't heard any complaints. So when you don't hear complaints, they're probably pretty good. Now, Seattle being added is part of the reason why the NHL makes more money. That's a top 10 market in the U.S. So whatever people may think, and that's why I'm wearing Seattle gear, Seattle being added to the league absolutely helped. This was a change that was welcome by yours truly here, because Seattle's not far from here, and I think that it will lead to a pretty good rivalry between Seattle and Vancouver. Once both teams are in a position to be good, we'll see a pretty good battle between them. The cities aren't that far apart. So, yeah, I think adding Seattle was good. It definitely adds to gate revenues there and adds some more fans, whether they're casual hockey fans that become hardcore hockey fans or if they're fans who maybe watched a lot of Thunderbirds games and now they're watching Seattle Kraken games. It's all the same money. It's all the same money. So, where did the advertising, sponsorship money come from? Well, financial institutions. So, your banks, $150 million. So, $150 million, it's a lot of money. So that's where that money comes from. The beer brands more than doubled their spending this year. So Budweiser and everybody else spent more than double what they did the previous season on advertising. Healthcare companies were actually third in terms of spending on advertising and sponsorships. And then sports betting and casinos were fourth. Now, I'm going to get out ahead of this a little bit and say sports betting and casinos probably won't be fourth next year. The expectation for the NHL is that it will be okay gambling in every single market. And I don't like some of what that does to the league. I don't like what I've already started seeing from fans. And I think it's definitely a slippery slope. The NHL's on it. We'll see how far this goes. But it adds revenue. And this is a league that was looking for revenue that it didn't have over the last couple of years. Jersey ads come in next year. They're optional. A team does not have to have jersey ads. Of course, the Washington Capitals had a big reveal for Caesars Sportsbook being theirs, which, again, that's sports betting casino. It's both, right? It's your sportsbook and it's Caesar Casino that's there. So with Vegas, it's the same thing. Or you're sports betting or casino. Yes. So... And I mean, it's fun when you're in there and you got all the TVs all over the place and you can put bets on everything and then you realize that'd be 20, 40, 60, 80. I'd lose $100 just on what's on this TV. Minimum. So the jersey ads, it'll be interesting to see which teams actually get them and which ones don't. And if any sponsors do a smart thing. Here's a smart sponsor idea. So if any sponsors, they're not going to be watching this. A smart idea would be, let's just say Sears, because Sears is out of business in Canada. Sears decides they're going to sponsor the Vancouver Canucks, right? They're going to sponsor the Canucks. They're going to pay the jersey ad money, but they're not going to put the ad on the jersey. There's going to be some other agreement between them and the Canucks. Maybe the Canucks will have a little advertisement here and there for them. So the company can say, we bought that jersey space, so your jerseys would stay clean. I think that works really well, and I'll be interested to see... I mean, the initial reporting was that your game-worn jerseys obviously would have the ads on them because the players are going to be wearing them, but that what we buy at the retail level should not have the ads on them. We'll see if that ends up being the case. That was the plan as recently as a year ago. They have an NFT deal starting next year. We'll see where that goes. The NFT market, not the most stable market of markets. So we'll see how far the NFT deal goes for the NHL. I mean, it's an interesting partnership, sure. I just have my doubts. I'll say this: I'm not going to do NFTs. It's not. I mean, I joked around about it at points. Nah, I'm more likely to just get a bunch of canvases and just paint like something. Probably stick figures, just a little painting, a little cloud, And then just autograph it and then sell that. That's as close as, because to me, they say NFTs art, so I would just make art, and then it's yours. You buy it, and I give it to you. It's yours. Nobody else can have it, and you don't need a URL. It's not like you're going to be digging through and going, where's that painting? I don't even know the URL that it would be. Where is it? So, yeah. I have my doubts as to the NFT market driving a lot of revenue towards the NHL next year, but we'll see, right? And then electronic dasher boards league-wide next season. This makes me a little bit nervous. Some of the electronic ads can be really bright and distracting, and they can reflect on the ice too. So I'm wondering how the electronic dasher boards are going to work and how bright those could be. But it makes some sense. So in between periods, you have ads that get changed. So they just take the one ad off and they put the other one up. And so we'll see with the electronic dasher, do they change... every 10 minutes during a game? Do they change continually? And again, you don't want it to look like there's a ticker all the way around the boards. I already have a hard enough time as it is with the fake, the ones that are on the ice that aren't actually there, that are projected there. Your eye can tell it's not actually on the ice, and it can be distracting. And then the ones that are projected to be on the glass that aren't on the glass. Obviously, you're not going to be sitting behind the net and going, why is there a Ford logo in front of my face? It's not actually there. It's put on there. It's CGI'd on there. And those ones, I mean, if adding the electronic dasher boards got rid of those ads, I'd be so happy, but it's not going to. And I'm aware it's not going to. So yeah, there's that. But I understand too why they project the ads that way, because you can sell more ad space. You can sell to more companies. The NHL has done a very good job of adapting very quickly to find a way to bring in more money. And whether we think it's a great idea or not, it's worked. Now, where all this relates to the players, because people talk a lot about the NHL being greedy, there is something to that. I'm not going to argue that there aren't times where the NHL doesn't look greedy, but since the league has a 50-50 split in revenues, all of this is good news for the players because they had a $1 billion debt, close to $1 billion in debt. When you look at how much money they make compared to how much money the NHL makes and that whole 50-50 arrangement, they were looking at about $1 billion in debt coming into this season. If revenues stay in this region, and if the growth ends up being what it could be, 2 or 3 seasons from now, that debt disappears, and then the salary cap skyrockets. With this $5.3 billion number, if we weren't dealing with a situation where there's already been great losses for the NHL over the last 2 years, we'd be looking at a salary cap in the low 90s. They're speculating that when it finally does jump, when all the debts are paid, that it could jump into the mid 90s. And so I think there's players. I look at Pierre-Luc Dubois. He's wanting to go UFA in 2024. That might be part of the reason why. He might be looking at all this information and saying, you know, if I sign in 2024, even if he stayed with the Jets, he might make $2-3 million more a year because the cap could go through the roof. So for guys who are signing 6 to 8 year deals that may look expensive right now, 3 years from now, we might look and go, what a deal that is. And then the team looks really smart in general. But again, this league, the National Hockey League, has always been gate-driven. More than half of their revenues came from ticket sales. With everything that's happened over the last couple of years, they've now changed that picture entirely. It doesn't mean ticket prices come down. It doesn't mean that there's a break for the average consumer. But it does mean that we'll see a salary cap going up, and that we will see a situation where the National Hockey League and its players dig their way out of this a lot sooner than I think many thought they would. And the league has been pretty smart in its moves. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.